Coming to paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, An Offer He Can't Refuse. The man who rules the world gets a job offer he can't refuse in this all-new John Haynes series adventure. Pre-order your copy of John Haynes, An Offer He Can't Refuse at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Better get the coleslaw, y'all, because we're having us a barbecue. There was a New York Times article that stated that dating here in New York City is really brutal. Now, according to this New York Times report, it stated that there were some dating events that were charging women $100 to attend them and allowing men to come in for free, and still men were not coming to these dating events to even see any of these women. Now, many of these women and the coordinators of these dating events are basically scratching their heads, wondering why the men are not coming to these events. However, I know why most of those men aren't coming to those events, and the foundation for the reason why many of those men aren't coming to those events has to do with economics. Now, when it comes down to most of the men here in New York City, many men out here just aren't able to go out here and get that full-time job that pays pretty well, because many of the women who are working in places like human resources or high-profile jobs, what they do is look down on many of the men looking to go out here and get that job as related to their first break, or a job where they're looking to make some serious money. And when they do this, they look to deny those men opportunities at work. And as they look to deny all of those men opportunities to go out here and be able to work, that basically, ironically, works against many of these women who have been told by many of these white feminist institutions like the colleges and universities that men are oppressing them. And as a result of them being taught this rhetoric, they go out here and deny men job opportunities, and that works to their detriment, because as they look to go into the dating market, what happens is there are no men in the dating market because many of those men just can't find jobs. Because in order for a man to even think about entering into the dating market or the social marketplace, a man has to have a good paying full-time job. And he has to have a good paying full-time job to even think about entering the social marketplace, because most women who are out here are not going to consider even talking to a man who does not have his money straight. Because when it comes to dating for most men is them looking for a woman who will audition for the role of a wife. And the whole situation with dating, in order for a man to be out here thinking about dating, he has to have his money straight. And that's something most men can't do, because they can't get that entry-level job, or they can't get a job at all. And that basically, again, is what's leading to the whole bottleneck as related to these dating events where men aren't showing up. Because if a man ain't got no job and ain't got no money, he can't enter into the dating marketplace at all. So that's the thing that flies over the heads of many of these feminist indoctrinated women who are out here thinking, oh, I'll deny this man an opportunity to work. But what they're doing, again, is working against themselves. Now, what many women, again, don't understand is if the man can't work, he doesn't have any disposable income. And if he doesn't have any disposable income, then he's not going to be able to go out here and do things like buy the cool clothes to come to the dating event, or even have the bus fare to come to the dating event. So you can say you want to let the man in for free, but if the man can't get the money to go get himself some gear, or get the money to go out here and be in a place where he can be that type of provider, well, you're not going to get any men to show up. And again, this type of logic flies over the heads of most women who are in their strong, independent jobs looking for a high-value man, but didn't even think, hey, maybe we should invest in some of those men so that we can go out here and find the type of men we're looking for in the social marketplace. No, they didn't connect that dot, and they're sitting there wondering, oh, why aren't any men coming to these dating events? But again, you believed all the feminist rhetoric talking about, oh, men are oppressing you. Well, you've basically denied men economic opportunity, and they basically are sitting there, again, in their mama's house in some cases, or just sitting there struggling at whatever they can find, like I am, like, oh, I'm trying to sell books, or trying to do the YouTube videos. They're trying to make whatever money they can, and usually that money ain't too much and ain't enough for them to go out here and even think about dating, because they're just trying to survive every day. And that's the way it has been for over 6 million men ever since the Great Recession. It's been just like that for over 6 million men. And that whole situation, as related to men's economics, is further exacerbated by the MeToo movement of the 20-teens. Now, the MeToo movement of the 20-teens also had a major impact on the entire dating market, where what happened was that because accusations were made by some faded women who were former side pieces and casting couch chicks against Bill Cosby, that's where a lot of women started to do this movement, where they basically were looking to say that they were looking to stop sexual harassment in Hollywood and stop SA in Hollywood. However, as things went on, Gretchen Carlson got a $20 million cash settlement, and instead of them looking to go after black men, they started to look to go after white men, as their hypergamy got triggered by the success of Gretchen Carlson against the late Roger Ailes. And after they got that hypergamy triggered, they started making accusations against white men. And as they made those accusations against white men, it became a legal precedent with the conviction of Bill Cosby, where simply an accusation from a woman or an allegation from a woman could lead to a man winding up losing his professional reputation, his personal reputation, and even his freedom, or even lose his job simply on the simple word of a woman. And with women going out here and being able to make a man basically lose everything as related to him having a life, many men just went out here and stopped interacting with women, either socially or on the job, because they basically had too much to lose. And with men having too much to lose, that's the reason why men have not been going out here and even thinking about considering dating, along with the whole inability to be able to find work. What has happened is that most men are basically avoiding the dating market, and avoiding the dating market because they basically, one, cannot find any sort of job, and two, cannot risk, if they do have a job, risking losing their personal reputation, their professional reputation, or their freedom, all because of the word of a woman who either had a bad date or basically just did not like a guy. So most men basically ain't really interested in going out here dating, because again, most men like myself, we have simply too much to lose. And with us having too much to lose, we have to think about what our basic needs for survival, and one of those, and in order to be able to maintain those basic needs, sacrifices were made as related to men. That's what's been happening right now. Most men now are just basically in survival mode all over the world. I mean, I have watched videos talking about what's going on in Korea and Japan, with men basically lying flat because they basically can't enter the job market as related to the economy, and they basically are in the same predicament where these feminist indoctrinated women can basically destroy their entire lives. And even in those Asian countries, those women are sitting here wondering and scratching their heads, why aren't men entering the dating market? Well, you have to make things economically viable for those men, to enter the dating market the way they did in the 1980s. Now, in the 1980s, when I was a kid and a teenager, men had reason to enter the dating market because, one, it was easy for a man to go out here and get himself a job, so he would have access to money very easily. Two, many of those men understood their role as a man in order to be a provider and were supported in that role. And basically, as they were supported in that role, they could go out here and look to try to build a life out here. And that's something that gave men reason to enter the dating market, because they could, one, get that entry-level job and be able to get their own place with just a $300 a week job. So you got a $300 a week job, you have a $300 a month apartment, you have an entry-level car, you're pretty much in a good spot. And you can go out here and think about considering dating because you've got some money you have that's disposable, or money you can go out here and save to go out on dates. But these days, when it comes down to things, it's impossible for most men to get a job these days because, one, of the ridiculous level of qualifications that baby boomers have established for these jobs, where you're needing, again, a college degree in order to get an entry-level job, and then you have to go through multiple rounds of interviews simply for things like a stock job at a supermarket or a grocery store. I mean, you got to go through multiple rounds of interviews. So you already have one barrier to, again, the dating market right there. And then on top of it, many of these guys can't get their own spot as related to having your own place. So that's another barrier because the rents are so high, and compounding that situation is that many of these men, on top of it, have to deal with this ramifications of this MeToo movement, and you put all that together, and this is why men aren't showing up at these dating events, and nobody really is connecting these dots as related to the issues that men are dealing with, because we wanted to come into the dating market, but the sad part is many of the feminists have, again, weaponized things to the point where many men just can't think about coming in. No, we can't come in because, again, you make it where we can't get a job. You make it where we basically, if we do try to talk to you, we're basically having to deal with either an accusation of sexual harassment or an accusation of a sex crime of some type, just simply for talking to a woman. And on top of it, you got, again, men not being able to get themselves up economically to do things like have their own spot or be able to have their own car. But you've got these women going out here looking for these high-value men that our society hasn't gone out here and even invested in on the basic level. We haven't even taken a minute to invest in our men on the basic level. Because if you go out here in the mornings, out here in New York, when you go to a bus stop like I have, you basically see most of the women going to work, and you sit there and scratch your head and wonder, where are the men? Because I remember 20, 25 years ago, even 30, even 40 years ago, you would see mostly men getting on the bus and going to work if they didn't have their own car. But these days, you see mostly women going to work, and they're sitting there wondering, oh, where have all the good men gone? Well, you haven't invested anything in those men. You haven't invested a single thing in looking to get the kind of man you want, because in order to go out here and find that type of man, you have to build that type of man up. That type of man who you want, who many women want, who's this big time success, that type of man takes time to go out here and build, because most men out here like myself, again, we got to start at the bottom and work our way up. But you can't work your way up when you have women who have been poisoned by feminism, looking to make life just that much harder for men and basically create a gate that keeps men out of the economy. I mean, how do you find those quality men if you keep them away from the job market? I mean, this is where many women just can't connect the dot as related to the dating market. and they're sitting there at these events spending $100. Oh, I'm looking for a man. Well, that's not how you find a man. No, men out here, basically, the way you find a man is if he's on his way to work, if he's out here doing his business. That's how smart women find those men and take them off the market. They basically get that man as he's going to work. And sadly, many of these modern women are so busy being strong and independent, saying they did not need a man, but now they don't understand about things and can't connect dots to understand that if you want that type of man, you've got to have to go out here and invest in building that type of man. And the way you build that type of man is you got to let him go out here, not let him, but again, get out of the way and have that man be able to get these jobs, be able to make that living, be able to get his paper together, get himself together. Because if you want, again, that type of man, you got to put the money in that man, because all you're doing right now is going to these events where it's all a bunch of women who spend $100, and the whole thing is the man can't get to the market because he ain't got no money, because you basically are out here talking about you oppressed as related to a job that the only guy who's got the money is the guy at the top, and he's already got his wife or a bunch of side pieces, and the only thing you're missing out on is a man, again, because you don't understand the process of things, and you don't understand that in order to get the type of man you want, you gotta go out here and put that investment in that man when he's at the bottom. Now, I wrote some men's issues books to try to help men out here as related to breaking out of the simp paradigm, and you can find those books on Amazon.com, along with a book that goes in depth on why so many women are single, why 70% of black women are single, and another book I did, The Woman Crisis, which talks about how feminism basically has messed up so many women for generations, because as they learn to become feminists and not women, they're wondering why they can't find a man. Well, I explain all of this in all three of those books, and you can find those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them at other online booksellers like Draft to Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to see me take the whole concept of the dating market to the barbecue, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the link in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback at e-readers, Isis, Dark Incubus. The goddess next door gets enthralled in a romantic entanglement with an evil incubus in this all-new Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis, Dark Incubus in paperback and e-readers today. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Esteemed Season of the Witch Girl. The aspiring angel takes on a wicked teenage witch in this action-packed, all-new Esteemed series adventure. Pick up your copy of Esteemed Season of the Witch Girl in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.